The narrative begins by presenting the Viking era, and 1,000 years ago a cruel conqueror named Gudbrand set out with 20 ships toward Normandy. During the invasions, he and his men discover a secret room in a convent. The monks beg Gudbrand not to enter, but end up being killed. Inside, the Vikings find neither gold nor silver, only a mysterious creature, without imagining that they had freed a hound from hell. They take it to the ship, however, before the vessel reaches Norway. All the Vikings are killed by the beast. The creature manages to escape to the coast, allowing evil to spread through the depths of the Nordic forests. 1,000 years later, we meet Thale, a teenager who has just moved with her parents to the small town of Nibbo in Norway. Thale is with her younger sister Jenny when she receives a message from Jonas asking if she is going to the bay. She accepts the invitation and takes some drinks hidden from her stepfather. Jenny, who is deaf and communicates through sign language, asks to go along. Thale explains that she is going to meet some friends from school and regrets not being able to take her. Then, she tells her stepfather, Arthur, that she is going out. Bothered by being called by his name, Arthur asks her to call him Dad, but Thale replies that he is not her father and leaves, refusing a ride. Soon after, her mother Liv returns from a walk and asks where her daughter is going. Thale only says that she is going out with friends. Worried, Liv insists on knowing the place, but the young woman does not answer. Later at the bay, Thale meets Jonas, who comments that he thought she would not show up. While they talk, Ellen, Jonas's girlfriend, becomes bothered and calls his attention. Jonas explains that they were only talking, but Ellen snaps back by asking if Thale is the new crazy girl from Oslo. A boy comments on the rumors that Thale had problems with illicit things and asks what happened. Tired of the provocations, Thale replies that she killed someone. Everyone laughs, not believing it, and Ellen asks if her mother is not the new police officer in town, which Thale confirms. Still irritated, Ellen pulls Jonas away to talk, and the two move off. Thale is left alone with the other boys, who continue provoking her, until she decides to isolate herself in the forest. Meanwhile, at home, Arthur puts Jenny to sleep and goes to talk with Liv. She asks if he noticed that a crate of beers disappeared from the refrigerator. Arthur believes that they simply ran out and says he will buy more, but she says it was Thale. Arthur asks his wife to give the young woman some time and jokes that he is needing a massage. Liv replies that she has been very busy, and the two take the opportunity to date a little. Meanwhile, Thale walks alone through the forest when she sees Jonas arguing with Ellen. Suddenly, she hears screams, and when she turns around, finds only Ellen fallen on the ground. Thale runs to help her, but something appears behind her and knocks her down. When she looks ahead, she sees Jonas gravely wounded, while Ellen is dragged away by a creature. Terrified, she backs away near Jonas, who is also in complete despair. Later, Liv arrives at the place and refuses to give an interview to the press. Commander Eilert informs her that Ellen, the mayor's daughter, has disappeared. He explains that the searches have already begun and comments that one of the victims is in shock and cannot speak. Upon discovering that it is Thale, Liv becomes extremely worried. Eilert reassures her, saying that her daughter suffered no injuries, but that she needs to talk to her. Liv asks what happened and whose liquid is covering her clothes, but Thale assures her that it is not hers. Still shaken, she can only say that she was in the forest, while her mother insists that she tell what she saw. At that moment, the commander calls her to see something, and they find a cell phone covered in red liquid. While Eilert gives instructions to the police officers, Liv collects evidence from a tree trunk. It is an enormous claw, leaving even the commander frightened. The next day, Thale has a strange dream in which she floats in a river. She wakes up with Liv asking if she is okay, and the young woman confirms and asks if they found Ellen. Liv replies no, but says that the searches continue. When asked what happened, Thale says that she was knocked down and saw Ellen being dragged away, but cannot describe what took her. Not wanting to pressure her, Liv decides to let her rest. Later, at the municipal school, Liv and the commander interrogate the students who were at the bay. Everyone gives a statement, but neither Jonas nor Thal could explain what they really saw. When she returns home, Liv realizes that her daughter remains very shaken. Meanwhile, Liv compares the enormous claw found in the forest with a dog's claw and concludes that there may be a wolf in the region. She calls Eilert and asks that a hunting team be sent, but he refuses. According to him, there is still no proof that a wolf took Ellen, and for that reason, they cannot start a hunt. The next morning, the family gathers for breakfast when Liv receives a call from her boss. Apprehensive, Thale hears her mother say that she is going to the funeral home. Upon discovering that the matter is Ellen, the young woman becomes shaken. At the funeral home, Ellen's body is completely mutilated and was found about 2.5 kilometers from the attack site. While the medical examiner describes the injuries, the commander feels sick from the brutality and goes out to get some air. The medical examiner also rules out the hypothesis of a common wolf attack, explaining that she has seen similar cases and that this is completely different. Before leaving, she gives Liv the contact of Norway's greatest predator specialist. Outside, Eilert tries to stop Mayor Tove from seeing her daughter. Liv also tries to convince her to wait, but the woman argues that she has that right. She remembers that Thale and other young people were also at the party and says that it could have been anyone, but it was her daughter. Liv laments the tragedy and explains that the medical examiner still needs to complete the examinations, while Eilert tries to comfort the mayor. Meanwhile, Thale returns to the attack site to try to discover something. Suddenly, she begins to hear voices and sees Ellen calling to her from afar. Frightened, she awakens from the trance and realizes that she was only imagining it. Meanwhile, we meet William, a specialist from the Norwegian Veterinary Research Institute. His boss informs him that the Nibbo police station made an unusual request because they believe there is a wolf on the loose. Upon learning that a young woman was killed, William is surprised and says that wolves do not hunt humans. Precisely because of that, his boss explains that they need a specialist to identify the true responsible for the attack. Convinced, William accepts the case. That night, a mysterious man breaks into the morgue and goes to Ellen's body, but his objective is still unknown. Meanwhile, Thale researches wolves when she receives a message from Jonas, who asks to talk. In the morning, the same mysterious one-armed man goes to the police station. He introduces himself as Lars Broden and asks to speak with the commander about Ellen's murder. Received by Liv, he soon notices that she is not from the region, and she reveals that she came from Oslo. Liv ends the subject about her life and asks what information he has. Lars asks if she knows the term lycanthrope, stating that this is exactly what they are looking for. Intrigued, Liv questions how he knows what they are investigating. Lars explains that he spent his whole life hunting that creature and identifies it as a werewolf. Liv clearly does not believe it, but Lars says that he understands her reaction and insists that they are dealing with a beast capable of spreading its infection. According to him, the creature needs to be stopped before it makes new victims and its lineage continues. Indignant, Liv replies that this is disrespectful, remembering that a young woman died, and says that she will not waste time with myths. Lars raises his tone and says that the werewolf is not a legend, but a real threat that is loose in Nibbo. Before leaving, Lars says that he will be at his camp if they need help in the hunt. He advises them to look for grottos and caves, where the creature usually hides. Lars also realizes that the weapons used by the police will not be enough to stop the creature and gives Liv a silver bullet. Meanwhile, Thale meets Jonas, who reveals that he has been seeing Ellen when he closes his eyes. Thale admits that she is also going through the same thing and that it has been terrifying. The two end up laughing at the situation and decide to leave there. Outside, Thale meets Ellen's friends, who provoke her again. One of the boys asks if the rumor is true that she could have saved Ellen, but preferred to run away. Awkward, Thale asks who spread the rumor, but they continue provoking her. Upon noticing the wound on her shoulder, one of the boys makes another joke. Unable to bear it, Thale leaves, while Jonas scolds his friends. When she arrives home completely shaken, she goes to the bathroom to examine the wound and, realizing that the situation is serious, begins to cry. Worried, Liv enters the bathroom and tries to see the injury, but Thale refuses help. She says that she does not need anyone, but Liv insists that she is only trying to fix things and that this was the reason they moved there. Irritated, Thale replies that this is not right because her father had to die for her mother to start supporting her. Liv asks for respect and says that her daughter does not know everything that happened. When she tries to examine the wound again, Thale leaves the bathroom in a hurry. Liv tries to apologize, but the young woman locks herself in her room. Thale has the same dream again, but this time she is floating in a red liquid. Suddenly, she is awakened by the phone alarm and realizes that she is late. When she leaves to meet Jonas, she begins to feel sick, until he appears and asks if she is okay. Thale confirms that she is, and Jonas takes the opportunity to apologize for his friend, calling him an idiot. He jokes that he should have punched him, making Thale laugh. Meanwhile, William arrives at the police station and asks to speak with Liv. After analyzing the evidence and the young woman's body, he explains that all the injuries were caused by the same animal. He highlights that the creature is very large, and when he sees the nail found by the police, concludes that it is a wolf claw, compatible with the injuries. However, William observes that despite belonging to a wolf, it is much larger and longer than normal. Liv asks if he is sure that it belongs to a wolf, and the veterinarian confirms it. The commander says that he will seek a hunting authorization, while Liv remains thoughtful. Later, they gather with some hunters in the forest to plan the search for the wolf. One of them notices Liv's concern and asks if she has ever participated in a hunt before. She admits that she has not, but the man reassures her, saying that when they find the animal, it will already be dead. In the classroom, the teacher explains about the wolf in mythology, but Thale is distracted. She begins to hear very loud sounds and becomes frightened, catching Jonas's attention. When she realizes that the noise comes from a classmate's pencil, she tries to understand what is happening, but soon hears a growl and sees the classmate transformed into a beast. Frightened, Thale leaves the room while the other students laugh. In the forest, the search for the wolf continues, and the dog finds a trail that leads to another corpse. The state of the body surprises everyone, and Liv finds a document indicating that the man was looking for an asylum. The discovery shakes Eilert, who begins to feel sick and asks Liv to take command. She leaves two men watching the place and continues with the others to follow the dog. At school, Thale hears someone crying in the bathroom and finds a vision of Ellen saying that it is her fault. The girl asks why Thale let her die, but the image disappears. Frightened, Thale flees to a field and begins to cry. Meanwhile, Liv and the hunters follow the dog to the ventilation duct of an old copper mine. One of the hunters explains that the place is closed, but Liv decides to enter after the journalist asks if they should check. Inside the mine, she finds a ladder and descends, but the wood breaks and she falls in front of the head of the missing man. One of her companions appears to help her. Outside, the men who stayed behind begin to hear noises. One of them panics, but the other asks for calm until the team returns. Suddenly, the creature appears above them, and their screams are heard by the others. The other officers warn Liv about the attack, and she begins to return with one of her companions. At the same time, they notice the creature, and the dog advances against it, but ends up being killed. The men try to react, but are killed by the beast, while the journalist manages to retreat into the mine. Liv sees the man fall into the hole and faint. When she tries to leave the place, she comes face to face with the werewolf, which advances to attack her. While trying to escape, Liv falls into the hole again and breaks her arm from the impact. The creature descends to her and begins to approach. Desperate, Liv fires all the bullets from the gun, but realizes that they have no effect. Then, she remembers the silver bullet given by Lars and uses it against the creature. Later, Liv is treated at the hospital and discovers that she suffered only a wrist fracture. Then, she goes to see the commander, who survived the attack but remains under observation. Soon after, Mayor Tove appears and says that she has been running the town for more than 15 years. She laments the tragedy and says that despite the difficult moment, Nibbo will overcome all of this. The two then go to speak with the press. While Tove makes a statement about the victims, Liv remains distracted and only shows relief when Arthur and Jenny arrive at the hospital. Later, the family returns home, and Liv ends up falling asleep on Arthur's lap. During the early morning, the dog wakes Jenny after sensing someone outside. When she looks through the window, she sees Thale standing outside, giving a dark laugh that frightens her. Jenny takes her back inside, and Thale, not understanding what happened, asks why she is in her room. Through signs, Jenny explains that she had a sleepwalking episode. Thale says that she has been very tired lately, and her sister promises to take care of her. The two embrace, and Thale falls asleep soon after, while Jenny leaves the room worried. The next morning, Liv visits William, who analyzes the creature's X-ray and reveals an unusual discovery. According to him, the animal was hit by 8 shots that would be fatal to any wolf, but none of them caused enough damage to kill it. Only the silver bullet caused intense hemorrhaging and destroyed the tissues around the wound. William makes another surprising discovery by showing that a new nail is growing on the creature's paw. He explains that the claw found by Liv belonged to the animal itself and that it began to regenerate. Not understanding how this is possible, Liv asks the question, and William replies that he spoke with a colleague about the case. In a joking tone, the colleague said that it could only be a werewolf. The answer makes Liv remember everything Lars had said. Even so, William insists that creatures like that do not exist, and that there must be a scientific explanation. Later, the two go to Lars's camp in search of answers. He comments that he heard about the success of the hunt, but Liv remembers that several people died. Then, she asks Lars to tell William the same story he told at the police station. Lars explains that the dead werewolf was ancient and had roamed that region for a long time. According to him, he had been following the creature's tracks for more than 2 years, since it killed a boy on the border with Finland. William continues looking for a rational explanation for the animal's characteristics, but Lars only smiles and shows an old book about werewolves. He says that people usually imagine a man turning into a wolf during the full moon. He believes that the creature was brought to Norway by the Vikings about 1,000 years ago. Lars explains that no one knows for sure the origin of the species. According to him, throughout history, humans tried to control the power of these creatures, first through rituals and sacrifices, and later with experiments involving other species. William asks if these attempts ended up going wrong, and Lars confirms. Lars explains that a young werewolf can be compared to a rabid dog, driven by the thirst for human fluid. According to him, the transformation happens little by little, sharpening the senses and making the victim's appearance increasingly animal-like. Liv asks if there is a cure, but Lars replies that when the transformation is complete, there is no going back. Before leaving, he says that the curse only ends when the lineage is interrupted, and asks if the creature was really killed. Meanwhile, Thale sneaks out to meet Jonas at a viewpoint. Worried, he asks what happened to her at school, but Thale says only that she is still shaken. The two kiss, but the moment is interrupted by a call from Jonas's father. While Jonas steps away, Thale observes the full moon and begins to transform. When he returns, Jonas finds her fallen on the ground, and she tells him to leave, but he approaches and ends up being attacked. The next morning, Liv is informed about Jonas's death and goes to the place. Meanwhile, Thale wakes up in the storage room at home and vomits the boy's remains, and when she looks at herself in the mirror, she realizes that her face is becoming increasingly animal-like. At the attack site, the police begin searching for evidence. The medical examiner confirms that the injuries are the same as Ellen's. Then, William reveals to Liv that the canine marks are smaller, indicating that the one responsible for the attack is not the same creature. Thale, wearing a coat to hide the changes in her body, goes to the crime scene and watches Jonas's body being taken away. Later, she tries to speak with her mother outside the police station, but gives up out of fear of Liv's reaction and runs away. At the police station, Liv prepares for a new hunt and separates more silver bullets. Meanwhile, Lars goes to the hospital and, upon discovering that Eilert was bitten, turns off the machines to prevent his transformation. At the same time, Thale boards a bus to Oslo. During the trip, she ends up transforming and mapping the passengers. Meanwhile, William receives the DNA test result and discovers that the creature has human genetic material. Shortly afterward, Liv arrives at the bus attack site, finds some survivors, and, when searching the vehicle, finds Thale's ring. At that moment, William reveals that the test confirmed that the creature is partially human. Meanwhile, Arthur hears noises outside and finds the family dog completely frightened. When he returns inside, he comes face to face with Thale transformed before Jenny. He manages to push her away using a shock from a lamp and flees with the girl by car. However, after losing too much fluid, Arthur faints and has an accident. Before passing out, he tells Jenny to run and hide, but the people who leave a bar to help end up being attacked by the creature. Instead of running away, Jenny approaches her sister and says that she will always take care of her. At that moment, Liv and William arrive at the place. William fires a tranquilizer, but Thale continues advancing, forcing the three to take refuge in a storage room. When everything seems lost, Lars appears with a car and hits the creature, becoming gravely wounded. In the confusion, Thale reaches Liv and bites her. William tries to get the tranquilizer, but cannot. Jenny then takes the syringe and applies the rest of the sedative to her sister, who finally loses strength and collapses in tears. The next morning, Thale, still in her creature form, remains tied to a bed. Unable to find another solution, Liv apologizes to her daughter, places a silver bullet in the gun, and decides to end her suffering. Sometime later, Liv returns from another day of work. Upon entering Thale's old room, she leaves a silver bullet before her daughter's photo, ending the story.